Welcome to the Handyman Pros Radio Show Action Edition, where we feature today an actionable tip that you can use today. I'm here with my old buddy Larry, and Larry, you've had some undermount sink things going on, and I thought this might be a good little topic for today. Why don't you tell us about these undermount sinks?
Yeah, so I actually I've done several of these. I'm going to say several, probably 3 or 4 of these types of repairs over the past, however long I've been doing this, but it's quite a while. But folks, I'm going to pose this question. When you have an undermount sink, meaning the sink is mounted up underneath the countertop, have you ever had the sink fall, meaning one side come unattached and have it drop down? Or does it lose its gap? Well, this is the third time in probably 2 years or so that I've actually had a customer call me and say, can you repair this? And so I was telling John about this, and I was actually telling him about a piece of technology, which we'll mention in a bit, about fixing undermount sinks. But we thought we might do a quick tip on remounting your undermount sinks. So with that, John, have you ever seen this?
I have.
Yes. Did you fix it or not?
I didn't. I just saw it. I wasn't charged with fixing it. I saw it at someone's house.
Yeah.
And this is quite common what you're talking about here, I think.
I think it's more common than what people realize.
Exactly.
Is what
exactly.
It is. So the biggest thing, probably the simplest fix that most people do, is they just take a whole lot of silicone caulk and they just shoot it in there. Okay, and they just kind of semi-glue it back up in there. It doesn't really fix the problem. The sink is still fallen, but at least it's not leaking, because the minute it comes unattached from the sink, you of course have a gap, and now you have to fill that up. So and that's probably what you've seen, John. If I had to guess.
And I will add that when you think of, folks, when you think about this, is that the amount of weight that a sink can take on is incredible, right? With water that you can put in it, plus all the dishes and silverware and all that kind of thing. It's you're asking a lot for that sink to stay stuck up underneath the counter.
Right. So exactly. So I guess we should probably take a step back, and I don't want to make this a super long show, but I'm going to do it just really quickly. So folks, let me just tell you how most sinks are attached to the underside of your countertops. It's usually done it should be done by the countertop company. It's usually done with the countertop off of the countertops, right? So it's not mounted to the countertops when they mount these things. And generally what they do is they take a little threaded screw. This is 9 out of 10 times you'll find this. Underneath the sink is a threaded screw that's been epoxied or glued to the bottom of the material, and then they put a bracket on that with usually a thumb screw, and it actually clamps on it, creates a clamp, and it clamps that screw up to, or clamps the sink up to the underside of the sink. And they usually put a silicone-based type of glue, or they use a polyurethane glue. It doesn't really matter. It's kind of one's half dozen one way or the other. But they seal that sink up underneath there with a silicone or polyurethane glue, and then they screw clamp these things down, and it tightens down, and it should stay tight. What happens to those things over time, and this is usually, because it usually takes a while for this to happen, is that the glue doesn't glue up completely. Something's happened, or somebody's put a chemical in there that's degraded the glue, which common cleaning chemicals can do that. They're not, it doesn't happen often, but it doesn't help when you put stuff on it day after day after day. And at the same time, the little screws sometimes get loose through time, just through the actual vibration in a house, and that clamp will come off. And lo and behold, as John just said, sinks carry an incredible amount of weight. Water's 8 pounds a gallon, and you put 2 or 3, 4 gallons into your sink every single time, plus your dishes, plus this, plus that. The next thing you know, you've got a pressure point, something comes undone. So this is what had happened at my customer's place. Well, I was trying to figure out how to fix this, and I'm not one to really get up under a sink and remount. Sometimes the glue will come off on the mounts as well, and this is what happened in this case. They actually didn't even use the glued mounts up on this. They just glued the sink up to the bottom of the countertop. And what had happened is through time it had come down. I was trying to figure out how to do this, and I did not really want to get up under there and put 8 of these little screw things up under there because it was going to just take too much time. So I found on Amazon, you can look it up. You look up for an undersink mount or an undersink repair, and they make this piece of, there's a guy that has created this perfect solution. It's like a T-mount, and it mounts to your cabinet, and it's like a turnbuckle, and it's actually a turnbuckle or a jack screw. And you mount this thing on, and you put this thing up under your sink. It's a long spreader bar. You put some glue up underneath it, and you turn this spreader bar out like a turnbuckle, only in reverse, like a jack screw, and it actually screws your sink back up and pushes it up against the countertop, rated at 600 pounds. So really a good fix, and a simple fix. And in my business, I've done this now. This is the 3rd time I've installed these things. We use these pieces of hardware because of the amount of time it saves, plus the quality of the install. So the piece itself costs around $50, but I don't have to spend 2 hours gluing up little glue things up underneath there and screw on. I can do this job in about an hour. So I end up saving. I use a more expensive piece of hardware, but I save my customers a lot of money. Plus, I give a superior mount, because once that thing's up in there, you tighten that up in there. It's clamped up against your sink. It's done. And I mean, it's done. It's not going anywhere. So, questions, John? Have you ask away, baby?
No, to me, this is a pretty straightforward fix. And after you see what what Larry's talking about is the fix, you'll understand it. It's relatively inexpensive, but it looks like a great permanent solution that is out of the way. You probably wouldn't even notice it up underneath the sink. And a lot of times when I look up underneath these things, I'm amazed at just what's holding these things up in there.
Sure doesn't look like much, does it?
No. So, I think this is like you said, this is probably more common than you think. I've seen this happen, and as soon as the sink starts to fall, like you were mentioning, is that the people, you might get, you'll want to. The first reaction is to put more silicone under there, and then you'll never be able to get your sink back flat again,
right?
Because you got
exactly.
the silicone. Yeah. So you just have to be aware of these types of fixes that are out there for this, and it's a nice, clean, permanent fix. So
yeah,
well
we'll post some pictures up of this particular piece of equipment so you can see it, because I think this is one case where a picture's worth 1,000 words. But it's 4 screws into the side of the cabinet, and it's just basically jacks it up. It's really simple, really easy. John, do we save people time, money, and aggravation?
Well,
we try.
We try. Sometimes I get aggravated, but
Oh, I can't believe you're saying
we
that.
do. We do. And that's the point of the show. And like I think what you just said there, in all seriousness, is that this thing is a real time saver. Because when I looked up underneath that, I could just see myself spending a half a day trying to figure this out.
Right.
Trying to put that whole sink back up. So
right.
Like I said, well done. And folks, if you have this kind of issue, take it from Larry. This is a great fix for that.
Yeah, there's a solution that's not
issue.
as difficult as you think, is my point, I guess. So, all right, folks. Well, don't forget, we do have a Facebook group. You can join us at Handyman Pros. If you want to send us an email, that's questions at Handyman Pros Radio Show. And if you do enjoy our show, please tell your friends and neighbors. Give them a link. Let them listen to our show and see what they think. And hey, they can send us an email too. So anyway, thanks for listening. We will see you next week on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.